Hey, what's going on, everyone? My name is Mazen. I'm a software engineer in the Bay Area, and this is episode one of the Tech Talk series, a series in which we bring in individuals from tech who are driven and passionate problem solvers. Now, today I have with me Charlie. Charlie, I have a few questions here that I wanted to go ahead and ask you so the audience can get to know a bit about yourself as well as your journey and your experiences and what it is that you're doing right now. But before I go into those questions, I want to open it up to you. I just want to ask you, like, can you introduce yourself? Like, who are you? Who is Charlie?
Yeah. Well, one, thank you so much for having me on your show. I'm excited for you and this journey on YouTube. So super impressed. Like you said, I've known you for a long time since you were a freshman at UNC, which is where we met. So yeah, my name's Charlie Helms. I'm came originally from Spring Lake, North Carolina. So I grew up a military kid, and I went to University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill with Maston. And in addition to that, I work at Microsoft as a program manager, and I've been there for about 2.5 years. So really love what I do. I work as a program manager, doing a lot of work when it comes to processes, agile development, when it comes to technical designs, business documents, legal advice. Is some of the areas I cover within my time at Microsoft.
That's awesome. Cool. And where are you right now?
So I'm now based in Seattle, Washington. It's definitely somewhere I didn't think I would be living. When you think of working in tech, you always think Silicon Valley, California, but it's been really good to me. So I've been out in Seattle for 2.5 years as well.
Is it true what they say about the, off summer not being that sunny?
Yeah. So it does rain here a lot, which I will say, if you grew up in the South, which is like North Carolina, Tennessee, Georgia, whatever, like rain means it's pouring. So
Okay.
everyone thinks, when you come to Seattle, when you hear it's raining, that it's going to be pouring. It's actually just drizzling most of the time. Like, it's not as bad as people make it out to be. It is cloudy during certain months, but the summers here are amazing. Like, it's sunny all the time. The sun doesn't go down until like 10 p.m., like 9 or
Oh,
10 p.m. So it's really beautiful too.
oh, no, that's awesome. I'm originally from Toronto, so hey, anything beats snow and cold weather.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, cool, man. Okay, so yeah, I love that you talked a bit about Microsoft. I definitely want to get into that. Before we do that, I just want to learn, or I want the audience as well as myself to learn a bit about you growing up as a child. So I'm just curious. So what were you like as a kid? Like, did you find yourself like playing with Lego or like playing video games like involved like building things? Like how did you even how did you become interested in tech in the first place?
Yeah. So growing up as a kid, I grew up as a military kid. So luckily, I was able to live on base, and they had a lot of different people from different cultures that lived there. So I got to know and see a lot more of the world at a young age, which was really amazing. I would think I would describe myself as not a Lego builder. I was very much the kid that liked a good teddy bear.
Okay.
And I also was a kid that loved watching Rugrats. I would say I was more big on TV and understanding media and entertainment. That was always my biggest thing as a kid. And just kind of hanging out with my friends outside all the time. Like, that was really big. I think the reason I got into tech was my dad was really into the new sound systems, and he was into the new tech when it came to phones and things like that. So at a very early age, I was kind of exposed to some of those things, not the computer science aspect or building computers, but it was more just always staying up to date when it came to new technologies being built out.
Was that something that you initially weren't interested in, but your dad kind of nudges like, hey, like take a look at this, like isn't this cool? Or like did you always have that innate interest?
No, I think I always had it within me. Like, no one was kind of oh, take this. It was more me learning and seeing oh wow, this cellular plan does this, or these systems work like that, or look at the TV, look at the specs, look at everything with it can offer. Or even when we had a lot more tablets, I was really into I was into tablets before Microsoft made them as big as they were with Surfaces. So I used to have the oh my god, I think it was a Samsung tablet, and then you can put it on a keyboard, right? And so I would work like that. That was probably back in middle or early high school. So the tech wasn't as good back then, But then to see like where it is now when you have like Surface laptops and like Google Chromebooks and stuff like that, like it's come such a long way.
Way better right now, right?
Yeah, it's way better. It's way better. Like I remember
Well,
like growing up and seeing like, the refresh button on my like Acer computer growing up was terrible. And then now like everything is so seamless with like Mac. So it's kind of cool just to see like the evolution of things, which I feel like when talking about like, those side of tech, I'm like, does that even mean I'm a technical person if I'm not talking about the code aspect? But tech really varies outside of just coding. Like, there's a lot of innovation we see, a lot of new designs we've seen. And that's been something that's been really like growing throughout the years.
that's awesome. That's really wholesome. And I love that you highlighted that uh, as of recently, like people that in tech space have been changing. You and I, we're not that typical, coder that or whatever that just codes in our basement and grown up like doing that and like ate a pizza and just had an interest in it. No, like it's definitely it's changing, and a lot of other people that are in tech are people that you might have not even considered. So it's open for everyone. Like everyone should definitely go ahead and join tech and look into it. But yeah, okay, cool. So yeah, so my next question is, so when you transitioned into high school, like did you know that you wanted to pursue computer science or that engineering route? Or like were you into like medicine, or did you want to do like liberal arts? Like how did you
Yeah.
come to computer science?
Ever since I was 7 years old, I wanted to be a lawyer.
Oh wow,
And
okay.
so going into high school, I still had that mindset. And I was very big on um, debating, right? So in middle school, I did a lot of debate competitions. In high school, I really like was a good speaker, so I would be a speaker for different events or different clubs I was a part of. I still had like a really big interest in science though. Like I've done Science Olympiad, which is like a competition for middle school, high school students, where you go to like these competitions and you will have different science topics. Like one is like building a bottle rocket, one is for like understanding genetics and evolution. There's one for like physics. There's one for what's another good one? Like mousetrap cars. I don't know if anyone built that, but it's like where you like have to use a mousetrap and then like it goes. Um, so I did a lot of that growing up. So I was always interested in like understanding like the way things are. But I always thought I was going to be a lawyer. Like I really enjoy debating. I really enjoy like being right about something. I enjoy finding loopholes in anything. I enjoy being an advocate for myself. So I remember back in high school, I would argue with teacher down. Like it doesn't matter if they're right, I'm wrong. Like if I found reason to believe you're wrong, then I'm gonna address it. So if I got a bad grade, I would always argue it. And that's been me ever since I
You're
was
that
little.
person, huh? You're
Yeah,
that
yeah,
person.
yeah. And it sounds bad, but I just don't want to be wrong. So
Okay, so
um I remember even growing up too, like if I would have spelling tests and I would spell the wrong version of it, I would like go find something else in like Latin or something else that
oh,
shows
wow.
it's correct to that spelling. That way they could get full points back.
Wow. So are you this persistent in your job?
I would no. I've really calmed down though. Like I feel like going to college, it really humbles you. At UNC specifically, because I couldn't finesse as well as I used to. And so it was hard for me to like maneuver like how I did a lot of my life. It was hard for me to like kind of get those points across. So then coming into Microsoft, I feel like, I still have that college mindset to where I'm like, cautious of what I'm saying. I'm cautious of like, my relationships and like, making sure I'd establish like long-term growth, listening to different ideas, taking it in, taking changes, like having a growth mindset as opposed to the fixed mindset I had most of my life. So I would say no, like I've changed in the best of ways when it comes to my job.
That's awesome. Yeah, I feel like when move out of college or graduate and you're working fresh as a new grad, you definitely like that's the time you grow the most. At least that's what I'm feeling, and I'm only like a month in. But yeah, no, awesome. So yeah, so I guess you're always interested in like I guess tinkering with a few things or learning about the new gadgets and whatnot. So that's what made you to do computer science, and what made you do computer science at UNC? Is that your dream school?
Yeah, so I went to this program called North Carolina Governor's School, and it's like a really like selective program in North Carolina for high school students. where you get in different categories, right? So people will either apply for the math side or science or politics. There's one for dancing, there's one for arts. So you spend the summer like at this college campus and you take courses for every department you're selected in. So I got into the math department and we were learning about different computer algorithms. So I had to do like a whole presentation on these different algorithms in comp sci. So that's when I got kind of like my first glimpse into what computer science was. At that time, I still hadn't coded. I didn't really understand that, but I knew it was something that interested me, like understanding like the way things run and the way things work. So that's kind of when I knew I would be interested in that field. University of North Carolina was not my top choice. And the reason for that was because at the time in high school, you know, everyone's kind of pushing for Ivy League schools. Everyone wants like, you know, the top #1 program they see for everything. And for me, I actually never even visited University of North Carolina, which is crazy because I've lived in North Carolina like most of my life.
That's pretty weird. That's pretty weird.
Yeah,
Even
right.
I visited and I'm not even from there.
I know. And the crazy thing is everyone wanted to go to that school. I didn't understand why. So it wasn't until like my senior year of high school that I had one of my teachers like really push for me to apply there and apply for scholarships there. And I was like, man, whatever. Like, you know, like I don't know what the heck this school has to offer. But I did, and I ended up getting like, you know, money to go there, which was amazing. So then like, you know, I took a tour after I got in, and then I fell in love with it because they actually had a lot more to offer than I thought. Like apparently it's like one of the best comp sci programs in the world. There's a lot of diversity. There was a lot of like benefits of going there, good courses. So it wasn't my first choice, but I'm glad it was the choice I went with just because it offered me a lot. And I think that it's where I was meant to be and grow as an individual at.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And you know, it worked out in your favor. You know, look at you right now.
Yeah.
You're in Seattle. Cool, cool. So yeah, what was that experience like? You know, like taking classes at UNC and taking computer science classes. Did you ever feel like the major wasn't right for you or that it was too hard? Like were you ever discouraged by others, professors, and
Yeah.
maybe you even wanted to like drop out or switch majors?
Yeah, I really struggled at UNC. I really, really struggled. I didn't know how to study really in high school. I feel like in high school, everything's kind of like a race. So you're learning stuff really quickly, trying to like just put it out. A lot of the times I wouldn't do my homework or even like my work until the night before. So I would always like kind of be on the time crunch and I would always figure out a way to do it. But in like the long run, when you're in college, it's not good to like, you know, study right before the test to try to pass it. So I learned that the hard way. I would fail tests. Like multiple times. I didn't get the material. Like a lot of it was like hard for me to grasp. In my freshman year, like during the first semester, I took Arabic, I was taking calculus, I was taking intro to comp sci, and all of those things were new to me. Like I didn't understand comp sci. I never took a comp sci course, and I was in the honors comp sci course.
Oh wow.
And that was hard because I remember the first day, Chris Jordan, he's like, how many of you all have taken a comp sci course? Everyone's hand shot up except mine. So I was like, oh shit. Like, you know, like it's gonna be a journey because everyone else already understands it. So I already felt behind in my peers. In calculus, like we offered it in my high school, but it was like one of those things you just take to boost your GPA. Like everyone at my school would get like a 1 or 2 on the AP exam. And that was like the standard, right? Like, and you're supposed to score like a 3, 4, or 5. That's what gets you the credit. We always got 1s or 2s. So calculus wasn't something that was really well taught. And then Arabic was new to me as well. So it was a lot of like different learnings in that first semester, and all of those courses were a struggle. So I definitely wanted to drop out of my major a few times. And actually, after my first semester, I switched majors. So I was like, I can't do this anymore. I was like, I'm struggling. The reason I like, you know, felt like I needed to stay with my comp sci major was because I was on scholarship, like a STEM scholarship. So they were paying the bills, but I had to get a Bachelor of Science in some type of science program, right? So comp sci was not working. I was like, yo, I'm gonna do statistics. So I tried statistics my second semester, but luckily my best friend, she convinced me to also take this emerging technology course my second semester as well, because it wasn't like a comp sci heavy course. It just taught you topics about tech to help people with different disabilities. So I was like, man, whatever, I'll take this stupid course because you need electives. So I was like, this will just count as an elective. But I found that I loved that course so much because we were actually like learning about different disabilities in that course. We were learning about how tech helps people with disabilities, such as like, hearing aids, or, like computer games that like, can be accessed by people that are blind, or how like, like there's certain solutions when it comes to like accessibility that you can build into your UX or to your programs. That way it can be used by more people than just kind of the standard. So I really, really love that course. And we did this thing where we had to design a video game for blind children. And UNC, they have this event called Maze Day. So it's where a ton of different schools, they come to North Carolina or UNC, and they play the video games that we've made. So like I got to like meet a lot of different students that were in elementary school, and they were blind students, right, visually impaired students. And they actually like, got to play the video game I made. And it was so amazing. Like I made it kind of similar to Trivia Crack, which is like, you spin the wheel, land a different category, and you have to select which option do you think is the answer. So it was really cool to think about like, ways that people could, understand it if they can't see the game, right? So like how certain keys would make a certain sound when they move, or like, how to use like sounds in your game, that way like they understand like what they're hearing. So that part was a lot of fun, and that's what got me more interested in computer science. So that's when I decided to stay with the track. Now I will say that although I came back to it, it doesn't mean it was still easy going throughout the rest of the semesters. I definitely felt like I still didn't belong at UNC when it came to computer science. I felt like everyone was like light years ahead of me. I didn't understand a lot of the curriculum, so each course was a struggle. I didn't pass one comp sci course. I had to retake it, and after that, I was like, okay, like, what am I doing? I had one teacher who was so disrespectful. He was actually like the department head at UNC comp sci, and everyone in his course was getting 50s on the exam. Like everyone was like 50s, 60s. And so I told him one day, I was like, I just don't think the questions you're asking are that clear. Like, if it's everyone's messing up, then maybe it's something.
That's that persistent Charlie, huh?
Yeah, yeah. I was like, well, because I'm failing too, so I have to like advocate. So then he said something rude. He was like, well, maybe you're dyslexic if you can't understand what's on the test. So I definitely was like pissed, but at the end of the day, I had to like still go to office hours, play buddy buddy, because I'm trying to get my degree. So there was a lot of really like big things that did deter me, like, being the only Black person in like these honors math courses, or, not feeling like, I had anyone that looked like me in my courses, or teachers that looked like me. Like everyone was doing internships, but yet like they weren't, trying to help, Black people get them. Like it felt like there was just so much against me. And also a lot of people that are in computer science, I hate to say it, are kind of boring. Like it's like very much like school is all I know. Like I don't do anything outside of this. I don't like, go to social events. I don't like go party. I don't like, like have different things set up for me. So I felt like I didn't relate to a lot of my peers because I'm very outgoing. I'm very adventurous. And my definition of a good time is not the same definition of everyone else's in comp sci. So it took a while. It took a really long time for me to feel comfortable in computer science and to be able to claim myself as a computer scientist.
That's great. That's great. A few comments. One, like, I really appreciate your openness and your journey and your feeling of like, you not wanting to pursue the major and actually, switch out. Thank you for sharing that with us. Like for me personally, like I was fortunate enough to take a class in high school, but I almost didn't go through with comp sci because I felt discouraged. I thought I wasn't good at it. Other people discouraged me, and I was the only Black guy in my class, or the only person of color.
Wow.
So yeah, though it's definitely discouraging, but it's a good thing kind of stuck through it, and we kept going. Two, you talked about how empowering it was for, for you to see other people use your game. Like, could you talk a bit about that? Like, is that why you like comp sci? Because of the actually building of something and the seeing of people using it?
Yeah, that's one of the biggest reasons why I fell back in love with it, because to know that I actually can benefit people made me excited. I don't really like, the idea of doing it for money. I don't like the idea of just doing it to prove that you're good at doing it. Like, I want to see that it's actually uplifting someone. I want to see that it's not just being used as like a one-off thing. Like, this is bringing value to someone's life that needs it. Like, that actually made me happy. And it's like I like something that like looks enjoyable, right? Like, there's a lot of stuff you'll see out there in comp sci that just looks chaotic when they like show you the UX. It's not accessible. It looks like a lot's going on, and I like stuff to look very minimalistic. I like things to look like accessible, easy to use. So yeah, that's what made me more interested.
That's cool. That's awesome, man. And I just really want to jump into what you're doing right now, but yeah, a few more things I do want to cover real quick.
Yeah,
So
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, one, like, what were you involved in at UNC? What were you like as a college student? What did you do? Were you in any clubs? Like,
Yeah.
what were you about?
Um, so at UNC, I was very, 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 very into trying to fit in with computer science. I would say that's a very big part of my identity. Wanting to belong in something that I felt like I didn't. So as a result of that, and then also being very business mindset oriented, um, I was taking courses at the business school, Keen Flagler Business School, and I really wanted to combine both the business aspect and computer science. So I was really just kind of like trying to build on both of those acumens to like really establish myself in a future career. But so at UNC, I was a part of Minority Business Student Alliance, and that was a really great organization because they connected us with a lot of professionals in different corporate companies and small businesses and nonprofits. So I got to see a lot of different inner workings of different businesses and business cultures, understanding just what drives, different financial strategies with the business, to understanding marketing, understanding when it comes to brand endorship. So a lot of those things I got to learn in that part. And I also, when it comes to UNC, I felt like I didn't belong in the computer science department. So I built out Black in Tech with my good friend and co-founder Olivia McFall. And we really did that because both of us were struggling in computer science. It was a battle. Like, if you were to ask people before us, like, we're Black, we were like, oh, what about computer science? They would say, oh, I tried that, but it was too hard and I gave up. So we really want to build a program that would help retain Black people in computer science, and also could be used as kind of like a safe space, right? Like, we wanted people to really feel like they belonged. So that was something really big that we did. And to establish it was a whole different thing, right? Because we had to be recognized as a computer science organization, but then we also wanted to be recognized as a full university organization because we wanted people to find out about us, and we wanted to be bigger than just something in a computer science department. So we did that. We co-hosted events with different organizations. We co-hosted events with different corporate sponsors and different people doing interview prep and stuff like that. So for me, like, taking that role and being able to actually push the needle forward on these things made me a lot more excited for being a computer scientist, because I actually got to create my own lane to meet other computer scientists, which was really amazing. And once we had that established, then we built out like a really good team. There's a lot of people that joined the organization, like such as yourself. Like, when you got to university, like, you knew about it because we had just started it. Um, so that really helped establish me as as an individual. I grew a lot more when it comes to leadership, to presentations, to making connections, like networking. I really grew a lot in that. And then something that was always a big goal of mine was in comp sci, there's a lot of things called a hackathon, which I hated. I don't know why people want to spend 24 hours on a freaking floor coding. Like it doesn't make sense to me. Like I'm like,
You gotta sleep there too,
you
and
gotta sleep
you gotta
there.
crank it out, and oh man.
There's no pillow provided, no bed, nothing. You just on concrete or carpet if you're lucky. And and so like it just didn't make sense to me. So like and a lot of people I know that were, like Black, African American, like I didn't see any of my friends going to hackathon. And like so I really wanted to like, create like a tech symposium, that would have, different speakers and like, panelists, and I wanted like job opportunities to be provided. And I wanted people to feel like they belonged. So I like built out AfroPix, which is a tech symposium that UNC offers. It's for people of color all throughout the North Carolina state for college students. And it really, really was a lot of fun building it out. It was stressful, but like I really like again got to learn more about leadership. I got to learn more about sponsorship. Like it was a really cool thing to put together. Like we were finding someone to do logos, website. I found like, sponsors. I was marketing the heck out of that. Like it was so much fun. It was so hard. But it was a really good challenge. So I would say like overall at UNC, like I was a leader. I was someone that cared about diversity. I was someone that liked to have fun, very outgoing, and I always wanted to like make a space for myself and others to feel comfortable.
You know, that's really great. Honestly, so when I got into UNC and joined Black in Technology, I did not know that that was the first year the club was actually founded. I found that out a few years later. Like I thought you
Yeah,
guys did a phenomenal job of setting, the groundwork and making the club so inclusive and interactive. So that's awesome. And also, yeah, so after Charlie graduated, I was involved in Black in Technology. And we grew AfroPix, Charlie's vision. And
yeah.
just this last year, we had over 100 people come to AfroPix, but not only UNC, but for other schools. So Charlie, that vision is still nice and strong, but it's awesome that you went ahead and founded that.
Yeah, yeah. And that's like, was the beautiful thing about it is like we weren't just doing it for ourselves, but we're doing it for like future students that come through. I remember actually when I went to UNC, when I was touring and getting to learn about the college, there was this Black and Latinx computer science club that the department was like advertising so hard to get minorities to come to their department. When I joined UNC, there was no club established. That was just something they were saying. When I tried to find the people that did it, they were like, oh yeah, we fell off on that like months, like years ago, essentially. So like, when building this program out, we really wanted it to last. Like we really wanted to bring in students, have students that were like, freshmen be on leadership team. That way they can keep growing it and really just to start establishing that more. Like my goal like is like 30 years down the road, I can come back and be like, wow, like we built something that lasted.
That's awesome. And also, I wanted to highlight something, guys. Some of these companies, some of these schools might be advertising, their D&I efforts, but be careful. Do some research on that and make sure, like, you make sure it's actually a thing and validate it, as
Yeah.
Charlie just talked about.
And make sure there's like active members, like make sure like
Yes, yeah.
still putting on events, like that they are still registered as an organization. There's a lot of organizations that like aren't even registered with the university or the department they're in. So it's all just kind of just a facade sometimes.
Cool. Yeah, yeah. And also, one thing I forgot to mention is how, grateful I am for BIT, because actually, I don't know if I covered this in my last video, which you haven't watched, go ahead and check that out. But I actually got my first internship. I got my first internship at Microsoft through that event. And in fact, the recruiter, so Charlie hosted that event and he coordinated with the recruiter that came and, advertised some roles, and, things went well for me from there. So definitely find yourself, like whether it's Black in Technology, some other student group, make sure to find your people and build that community, because it's definitely an enriching experience.